Yeah, well, let's get going.
Morning, everyone. Are we ready to start? Just wait for Councillor Burhop, and it's fine. It's all good. No, I think we have everybody in now. No, we're not missing anybody that I can think of. Okay, lovely. Well, good morning and welcome to East Devon District Council's Housing Review Board meeting on Thursday, the 7th of November, 2024. Can you still hear me? You can now. The meeting is being recorded and is live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. Can I remind everyone present to please use a microphone or your comments will not be recorded. Health and safety announcement. There is no fire alarm drill. You can all hear me. Oh, it's back again. It's going to be one of those days. No fire alarm anticipated today. If the alarm sounds, please leave the building through the nearest fire exit by following the green running man signs above the doors.
So Councillor Smith at the back.
Councillor Smith, welcome.
You're Vice Chair.
You would like to come this way? I'll carry on with the announcements while Councillor Smith makes his way over here. Please make your way to the rear of the car park and wait for the organiser of the meeting to tell you when it is safe to return. This is a smoke-free building. If you wish to smoke, there is a smoking shelter at the rear of the car park alongside the building. Toilets are available in the stairwell of the building at each floor landing, and water is available in reception. Finally, please make sure all phones are either muted or switched off. I would like to welcome to the meeting the new tenant representative members, Rachel Brown and Rosie Dell, to the meeting. Subject to formal co-option by full council on the 4th of December 2024, they will become the new tenant members on the Housing Review Board. I would also like to welcome newly appointed District Councillor Jenny Brown to the meeting and to the board. There remains another District Councillor vacancy which will be filled shortly. We will now do a roll call of committee members here present and declarations of interest. Please can you unmute your microphone when you hear your name, and please confirm by saying present and declare any interests that you may have. When you have confirmed you are present, please then mute your microphone again. Before we go on to do a roll call of all members present, I thought it would be very handy for everyone if we just literally went round the board members to introduce ourselves so that everybody knows who we are. We have 3 new people, not new, but on the board today. So I'll start. I'm Councillor Sarah Chamberlain. I will hand you over to Rosie. Yep.
Not logged in.
Rachel, do you want to start? The one on the right. It's just got a little face. Just press it. It should go red.
Chair, they won't work because they're not the new tenant members aren't logged in.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Chris Burrock, and I'm the District Councillor for Newton, Poppleford and Hertford. Just had to think about that for a minute.
I'm Rob Robinson, the co-opted tenant member.
Okay. Right. Jenny Brown, councillor for Honiton St Michael's.
Hi, I'm Melanie Martin and I'm a district councillor for the Bodleian Rally Ward, even though it says I'm Jenny Brown.
Hello, I'm Councillor Aurora Bailey. I'm a district councillor and an Exmouth town councillor, and I'm also attendant for East Devon for over 35 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For new members and tenants on the board, I wonder if everyone on the table would like to introduce themselves. We'll start with Tracy.
Hello, I'm not Catherine Stark. I'm Tracy Hendren. I'm the Chief Exec here at East Devon District Council.
And I am Catherine Stark, and I am the Director for Housing and Health.
Hello, I am Simon Smith, Councillor Simon Smith, and I'm a councillor for Axminster.
Good morning, I'm Giles Salter. I am here from Legal Services.
Hello, I'm Alethea Thompson, Democratic Services.
Amazing, thank you very much, everyone. So we will go over now to Alethea to do a roll call of committee members here present and any declarations, please.
Okay, so I'll start with yourself, Chair, Councillor Sarah Chamberlain.
I am present, and just to declare that I work for Exeter City Council in housing.
Councillor Aurora Bailey.
Yes, I'm an East Devon district tenant for 35 years. Thank you.
And Councillor Jenny Brown.
Honiton Town Councillor and affects NRI.
And Councillor Chris Burhope.
Yeah, present.
Got Councillor Melanie Martin.
Yes, present.
Councillor Simon Smith.
Present.
Got Stephen Beer. Sarah Clark.
Present, no interest.
Thank you. And finally, Rob Robinson.
Present, and I'm council tenant.
Thank you. So Chair McCourt.
Thank you very much, Alethea. Moving on to agenda item 1. This is the minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on the 1st of August 2024. Does anyone have any comments on the set of minutes from the 1st of August 2024? No comments? Everybody happy to vote to approve the minutes of the previous meeting? All in agreement? Excellent. I will sign those. Thank you. Right. It's the 7th today. Thank you. Excellent, thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 2, apologies.
I don't have any, Chair.
Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 3, we've done declarations of interest already in the roll call. So we're moving on to agenda item 4, public.
Sorry, just to note that we've had apologies for Councillor Dan Ledger for the first 40 minutes of this meeting, roughly. Councillor Gazzard.
Councillor Gazzard.
Thank you, Chair. Can I give an effects NRI as I'm a council tenant?
Thank you very much, Councillor Gazzard. Councillor Brown.
We can't get in. Does the agenda, he keeps saying can't access his page.
So
I think there is a problem.
We've just been notified that modern.gov's gone down across the country, so it's not an East Devon issue, which means, yes, you may struggle to access your agenda.
It could be accessed via the external internet. Will that not work either?
No, I could only, I'd have to go onto modern.gov to access the agenda.
Yeah,
So
what we'll do is just bear with us, viewers. We'll just pause for 5 to 10 minutes and we'll just work out solutions so everybody's got the agenda in front of them. Thank you.
Chair, can you not go in via email I mean, no, no.
Sorry, everyone. Bear with us 2 seconds. We're going to forward you a board pack via email now in a moment. Okay.
Right, everyone. Question? Yep.
With regards to the minutes from the previous meeting, it was, it said there needed to be a mechanism in place for more in-depth debate and scrutiny to take place outside of formal meetings of the Housing Review Board to ensure that members have a strong understanding of complex issues on which they are asked to vote. And it was noted that the Scrutiny Improvement Plan, recently endorsed by Cabinet and full Council, sets out a recommendation and associated action for briefing sessions to be put in place for members. And senior officers and Cabinet are committed to supporting this approach. Is that actually covered in this meeting today, or do we know what the outcome of that is? Because I'd like some training.
Sorry, just this morning was an example of that opportunity, the HR, you know, before the HRB meeting, to have that opportunity for discussion on different topic. So that was the start of a programme of work. So as and when things are relevant, that we're calling meetings so that we can have opportunity to hear in a different forum and then ask questions in a different forum.
Sorry, can I just say as well that we are working our way through the scrutiny improvement plan and the recommendations. Obviously, you've only just joined the HRB. I was only told, I think, yesterday. So we do have a training session for all members of Overview Scrutiny and the Housing Review Board. I think it's on the 28th of November. So I'll send you a link for that. Okay.
Councillor Loudon, did you have a question?
Not a question, Chair. I just wanted to follow up on the point that Councillor Brown has just made, which is an irrelevant point. And yes, just building on what Catherine's said, I think this morning was a good example of the sort of change of approach that this council generally is taking. If you recall, 3-4 months ago, when we first were thinking about the future direction of housing, we undertook a housing-related briefing for members. And certainly we are just about to introduce at the end of the month, 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, the first of our regular, broader, all-member briefings. And I'm sure as we go along, HRB / housing-related issues will be picked up as and when within there. That's not to say, it doesn't stop this committee from also taking that forward. And I think it's a broad direction of travel that we're starting to embrace. And I'm afraid it's going to be resource intensive. So again, that brings a degree of restriction in how much and when we can do things. But I think we all collectively, officers and members, are united in wanting to broaden out our approach on this.
Thank you, Councillor Loudon. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just suggest that, as a matter of course, we add matters arising to the agenda at the point of the review of the previous minutes? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin?
Yeah, on the same subject, I mean, I welcome what has been suggested today, but I'd like to see something that is periodic and not just ad hoc when there's something significant to be discussed. I don't know whether the rest of the HRB agree with this. Sort of a regular meeting before our meetings to discuss matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Goodman, please.
Yeah, I think the point of this minute entry was that housing have not been scrutinising for the last, since it's been in place. They've not scrutinised some of the work, and this came out during the peer review. And the meeting on the 28th is important because that's starting the process of teaching people how to scrutinise. But I think this Housing Review Board has got to start scrutinising some of the decisions that are made or some of the consequences of what's happening. And I think this was the reason it was in the minutes.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'll go back to welcome back, everybody. Sorry about our technical. We kind of went off on a questions stage then, but just due to technical difficulties, I think we do have some more agendas on the way, should any, in paper form, should anybody need them or we have any issues going forward. So we were at agenda item 4, which was public speaking, and I don't believe we have any in that agenda item. So moving on to agenda item 5, matters of urgency, there are none. Agenda item 6, which is confidential exempt items, there are none. Agenda item 7, moving on, the forward plan can be found on page 12. To pass over to Catherine Stark, the Interim Director for Housing and Health, and to present the forward plan, please.
Just to clarify, no longer interim, so Director for Housing and Health.
I apologise, it's in
not
my
your fault,
page.
Sarah, it's in your speech, it's fine, it's fine. Just to kind of present the information for the forward plan, I guess my question would be with immediate effect really is if HRB would want us to hold more regular out of session sessions, then actually I guess it's about how do we phase these into this forward planning so that you guys, as you say, Councillor, have more warning of them and more kind of understanding as to what you want. I would ask though that we get some guidance on that from you as to what you'd like to hold in terms of sessions. We have brought things when we felt it was relevant, when we felt it was important, and would inform and provide greater context to some of the discussions and information that may be held here today. But to be honest, Chair, I would just put that back to the group to ask for advice as to how you'd want us to do that. Notwithstanding that obviously we're looking at the Christmas period and trying to fit another meeting in before the January one may not be feasible, given that the papers for the January HRB will need to be out in the second week of January when we'll have just come back. So I guess it's about asking, is the forward plan demonstrating at the moment what you'd like to see for the following meetings? And if you'd like us to bring additional sessions to that, what would that look like?
Amazing. I think that's for the board to sort of, whether you want to have a discussion about what that looks like now or whether you want to have to think about it in relevance for it coming forward next year, and what everybody thinks would be best suited to the board and plan going forward.
Well, I think I'll put it out to my fellow councillors and members whether you want to meet outside of the Housing Review Board to put something together to give some guidance on, or whether you want to discuss it now. I mean, personally, I think we should get on with the business of today, and I suggest a meeting outside, which we can organise.
Lovely, thank you. So if we look at putting something together in the next sort of 2 weeks, 4 weeks, we can discuss maybe just an online meeting or something to discuss what we want to set out. Would everyone be happy with that? Okay, I'm sure we can arrange that and get that in place for everybody. Catherine, did you want to go over any more of the forward plan?
No, that's it, Chair, just to make sure that we're producing what you want at the right times, within our restrictions, obviously, and our kind of ability. But yeah, that's great.
Sarah Clark, please.
Use mine.
It was just, when can we expect to see an update on the stock condition survey and where you are with that? Because that's not appearing as far as I can see on this.
Catherine?
Obviously, we've had the initial data through. We've had a presentation this morning to give the initial data. Obviously, that information at the moment now needs scrutiny, and we'll need further information and kind of cross-referencing against data that we hold. And then it'll be brought back as part of that wider chain of work that we've kind of already highlighted needs to take place. Yep, I mean, so in terms of where it sits, it will obviously inform the housing asset management strategy that will be coming in April, in that kind of final quarter. We won't get anything in time for January 30th, no.
Councillor oh, sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Could we, as a matter of course, include a review of the financial monitoring report for the HRA on each agenda, please? Because given where we've come from, it's important for us to be on top of it for each meeting, I think. Thank you.
Absolutely, not a problem at all. It's just an oversight, I think, to be honest, Councillor Burrup, sorry.
Any more questions from inside the board a minute? Well, we're just in the board at the moment. Any more questions from members in the board on that area? No? Okay, moving outside of the board then, we've got Councillor Gazard, please.
Thank you, Chair. I hear what's being said, but I find it strange that, you know, the Housing Review Board is one of the most important committees going. The councillors had the opportunity this morning to come along to listen to the start of the process of the stock condition. And I do find it strange that members of the board are going to have to wait until to January, or maybe April, before they get an update of what's going on. Now, surely they should be in the same position as what councillors are, because they will be making decisions or recommendations to council of how we move forward. So I think, I just feel that, if you like, they're not in the loop. But that may be just me, Chair, so I apologise if I've misunderstood.
Do you want to come back, Councillor, with that?
Is Councillor Burrup related? Or?
Councillor Burrup, is that related? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As a suggestion, maybe on the January meeting, we could include a timetable for the output from the stock condition report, which would then give us, sort of forward view of what's happening with that report and when we're next going to see updates from it.
Sorry, Councillor, I'm just double checking my notes here now to see, because there is a rough roadmap that's been produced, but we can produce an updated one in January. It's not a problem at all. And to answer Councillor Gazard's kind of comments, absolutely. In terms of the timings, we're a little bit stuck really, because obviously the HRB timings are restrictive in the sense that we need to obviously come to HRB before going to Cabinet in terms of any proposals, and obviously the meetings are already set and in train. So that may be an example where we want to hold an exceptional meeting, for example, in kind of, I guess, March, before the April meeting. It may be an example where we need to call upon that, but at the moment, without that kind of planned timetable ahead, I wouldn't want to pitch any dates here necessarily, but it's something that we can look at, absolutely.
Thank you. No more questions. Okay. Lovely. Moving on then to agenda item 8, staffing update. This is a verbal staffing update from Andy King, Assistant Director for Housing.
Thank you. Yeah, this is just a very quick update, but just to let the board kind of know of some changes over in the housing service. So you may have noticed that today Susie Williams is not here with me. Susie left the council at the end of August for pastures anew, and we wish her the best of luck in her new role. Also back in September, the contract for our property and asset delivery manager came to an end. But I am pleased to say that Les Joint has stepped up into that role and is here today. If you want to give a little wave, Les. Thank you. And also, we have successfully backfilled my previous position, interim position of Tenancy Services Manager, which Darren Hicks is now covering and is sat at the back of the room. If you want to give a wave, Darren. Those of you, you may recognise Darren. He's worked for the council for some time and was previously our housing allocations manager. So we wish you the best of luck in that role as well, Darren. Obviously, recruitment is live and underway for the replacement of Susie Williams' role, overseeing the property and assets side. And that was it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. I'm just going to go over to Catherine, please.
It was just to also note, Chair, that within the last few days. We've also appointed Liam Redding as Assistant Director for Programme Development and Investment. So we will be announcing that formally on a wider staff level, and we also will produce a formal staff structure for you all, so you all know who we are and where we're sitting and what we're doing.
Fantastic. Excellent. Do we have any questions at all? No? Oh, Councillor Burhoff.
Sorry, Chair. About a year ago, maybe as we were appointed as, or elected, we had a very useful brochure that came out with who's who. And if that could be updated with all the changes that we've had, I mean, that's just not just for the housing, but, you know, group-wide, that would be fabulous. Thank you.
Just to say that is in train, because I've been chased for my information and provided it. So yeah, that is in train on a wider level. But specifically, what we are looking to do is to do from a housing perspective, is to do it so you also get a kind of brief description of job role and responsibilities as well, because obviously it's quite convoluted, isn't it? Quite, yeah. So we're trying to do that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow, please.
Thank you, Chair. Further on, we get figures given about staffing levels, and from memory, we were £630,000 below our staffing level, I believe, on the budget. And I just wondered, is that a large number of people, or is that a few? Unfortunately, the personnel figures, the personnel committee was cancelled, so we don't have the figures to know the numbers. All I've got is figures, and I just wonder, have we got rid of lots of people and got a few people in that are replacing them? Where are we on numbers in housing, please?
I can get a more full response for you, Ian, but just as an immediate response, we've had an awful lot of reduction of people coming from agents, coming off agency. Has been a concerted effort to get people recruited into posts. So as you'd imagine, agency costs are far higher. So we have seen a reduction in our spend as a result of that. There's been some key initiatives. We've also got some key positions that remain vacant at the moment. So that is bringing in a kind of a saving, for want of a better word, under our staffing budget. But it does need greater scrutiny that I'm giving any justice on that response, but that can give you a kind of really key high level response in terms of there's been such a concerted effort since coming here to get people onto our books as employed members rather than agency members, of which we had a high number previously.
Thank you, but you're still saying you're predicting 63% below on our budget. I know that the agency has eaten into that a little bit, £500,000 of agency costs, whatever, eaten into that. But what my question was is the £630,000 that we're below, have we lost 30 staff that we have now replaced with 10 staff, or is it same numbers? That's all I want is numbers, please.
Sorry, without having that data to hand, but our teams are pretty much looking like for like. It's the kind of high paid, big ticket numbers really that we've had agency posts in for that we don't have. So it's a small number. It's our teams have not been significantly affected.
Thank you.
Councillor Martin, please.
Thank you. Catherine, do you feel that you're at the place yet where you've got enough people in your teams to make a difference and to solve some of the problems, the housing problems that, you know, have been around for a while, or are we still short of that? Could you give me some indication, please?
I think my initial response would be, I think we've got the right people in the right roles at the moment, and definitely. I think we've got, and as I said, we've got a number of gaps, specifically on the asset side, and we're relying really heavily at the moment on goodwill, which I'm not prepared to do for much longer, but obviously we're hitting the worst time for recruitment at the moment, recognising that coming into Christmas is the worst time to try and run a recruitment campaign. So we will be looking to start that within the January period. Some of the kind of asset side of the business is the one that's actually currently understaffed at a managerial level. On an operational, on the ground level, I think we are adequately staffed. I think any team would always tell you they need more staff, but I do feel that we are adequately staffed. So yes, it would be my answer. And hopefully through some of the information that we're going to hear today, you'll see that we're on an upward trend and we're making positive steps. So I think that for me, that can only get better when we've got that kind of additional support at managerial level to make sure that the teams are supported and nurtured and they're able to kind of grow really with that leadership in place.
Thank you very much. If there's no more questions. Okay, moving on to agenda item 9, the financial monitoring report, which can be found on page is 13 to 21. This is to receive a report from John Sims, the finance manager, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, so this is the financial monitoring report updating to September, so month 6 at the half-year stage. In the highest summary level, the report is telling you that expenditure is being maintained within the financial envelope as set out in the revised budget as agreed in July. So that's at the highest level. It's good news. Just diving into the report itself, section 1 of the report covers recent developments in the use of right to buy receipts. So essentially, MHCLG have confirmed that 100% contributions are now allowable. So this has meant this becomes an increased funding stream to the capital programme regarding right to buy acquisitions, and therefore it's providing further funding for the capital expenditure programme. In essence, that's giving the authority the opportunity to fund the required investment to meet the recently identified electrical compliance standards work. Section 3 of the report gives a position regarding income and expenditure. Table at section 3 summarises the income forecast. The table at section 5 just covers off the expenditure side, and section 6 of the report provides details where the HRA is benefiting from increased investment income returns. So that's a positive. The combination of these show again, just to highlight again, that the HRA is currently forecast to be within the parameters of the agreed budget. Section 7 covers the capital programme, and this is summarised at 6.2. As detailed within the report, the service is seeing high levels of expenditure associated with disrepairs and complaints. The forecast position is considered to be prudent, as we hope to see a reduction in the second half of the year following the headway that has been made in reviewing and reducing outstanding issues in this area. The capital programme is also currently forecasting significant spend within the major repairs due to spends on voids, but again, great headway has been made in this area, and I'm told that voids are now down to 54 from 130 in the last quarter. So again, we will continue to monitor this area and report any variances. The final section of the report covers the predicted borrowing requirement. Because of detail given in the report, the requirement is actually now currently forecast to be 8 million against the originally approved level of 9.2. So this, in effect, should have a positive effect on borrowing recourse. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from outside of the board? Councillor Barlow, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just on item 5, your expenditure, obviously on the repairs and renewals, which is the big one, 3.135 million actual compared to a budget of 2.8, £330,000 over. You're predicting then in the next 6 months that we're going to be back on target, barring £4,000, irrelevant. How are you hoping that's going to happen? Are you going to stop doing repairs? It doesn't quite make sense to me. If you take away the figures of what you've already spent out of the budget, it basically means you're going to do a huge amount less repairs in the next 6 months. So are we expecting no repairs coming in, or are we just going to stop doing them?
From the monitoring point of view, a great deal of work has been made in terms of the monitoring of that and how we're now monitoring what's in the pipeline. So we've got much more control on that level of spend. So colleagues in the housing department will be able to sort of provide more detail, I'm sure. But in terms of that, you know, that monitoring and knowing what's coming down the line is going to give us greater control of that figure.
So Sorry, can I ask then someone in housing? So what is your prediction? Because it seems amazing that you know what's happening 6 months ahead when you've got a budget there that you're working through. Usually you divide it by 12, but you're either stopping doing the work for a month or something like that. I don't know. I'm just concerned that you're promising something that, again, we're already over budget. Are we going to get there by the end of the year? Is it realistic?
Andy.
So yeah, I think it would be fair to say from previous financial reports and conversations we had back in late spring, early summer, we knew that there were accruals from the previous year that were spent out of this year's budget. So we knew that there was a beginning year heavy spend on repairs on a number of works that had previously been committed to. As John says, this is about greater scrutiny and oversight through changes in the way that we are managing those finances now, and we've got that in place. There have been a number of weeks where actually we've come in underspend. If you were going to break that budget down into a weekly budget and do it that way, which means that we're building up an accrual or space within that budget for increased works over winter that we know is going to come. So lots of work has gone into analysing that budget, forecasting what that spend's going to be, looking at trends of the sorts of repairs we get from previous years as well. So I think with that expertise from our officers, we're confident that what's shown here in the forecast is achievable.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey, please.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I declare an interest. I'm a tenant of East Devon. I'm very disappointed in the amount of voids that are being empty, in many cases, for over a year. We have quite a considerable number in Exmouth and surrounding district. And people keep saying, do you know how many houses are empty?
Councillor Bailey, I think this will be on the next agenda item for you, housing performance.
My apologies, I will wait until then.
Lovely, thank you very much. Any more questions on the financial monitoring report? Councillor Brown, please.
Sorry, what effect will the stock condition survey have on the budget?
The stock condition survey will enable us, as we said, what we need to do is triangulate the information to see how many of the works on the kind of high priority areas have already been completed. Where they haven't, then we will then obviously look to remediate those works as and when we need to out of the existing budget. But as I said earlier on, then that will inform what that budget setting looks like for the next year. So that will all be part of the work that the teams will be doing in conjunction with finance as part of the budget setting process.
When do you need to have the figures for the budget setting?
We're working on them at the moment.
So wouldn't that budget then affect this then? So,
no, we would find it within year. I mean, a lot of it, if there is anything, it would come under compliance and is probably already in train, to be honest, Rob. But again, without knowing address by address and case by case, I can't give you a totally full answer. But we would just afford it within this year's budget.
Councillor Bowhope.
Thank you, Chair. Just going back to item 4 on this report, which is transfers of a revenue budget to capital. So if I'm understanding correctly, we've moved £900,000 of revenue spend to capital in this financial year, which has taken 600,000 out of disrepairs and complaint works and capitalised it, and another 300,000 of social adaptation costs and capitalised it. So that's actually reducing our revenue spend and helping us to achieve our budget. One of the ways we can fund that, as I understand it, and I'm maybe just repeating what you've said, John, is by the use of 100% of right to buy funds. Are the two connected?
It's connected in the sense that it's capital financing, so it's just how we go about finance and capital expenditure in the year. This one is capitalising what we can from revenue, so we can then still use that same budget, if you like, to fund that capital. So you're shifting the whole lot, if you like, but if nothing else, it gives you more options as to how you then go about it. In this sense, that then is part of just freeing up financing, especially around the electrical.
Thank you. What happened previously to the 50% of right to buy money that we didn't have access to?
Well, essentially before it was that 50% that would be held. If it wasn't spent within a particular time frame, it would have to be returned. So the change is effectively kind of changing the match funding that we would have had to put towards it. So now that 100% can, again, goes back to capital financing.
Sorry, so it's returned, it would have been returned to central government?
Potentially, yes. If it's not spent within the time limit, yes.
Councillor, did you want to come in? Sorry.
It was just to clarify that we haven't returned anything. Just to kind of, before anyone is now thinking that
I
you know,
heard
that may be the
did.
case. And I just wanted to clarify before we move on.
Councillor Loudon, please.
And I guess Catherine would never let the money go anyway. I just wanted to pick up on the point. It seems understandably to be a bit of an underlying theme thus far in the meeting is the stock condition survey. And just to remind colleagues, and it's a bit of a plea really, that we're looking, that will inform us as we move forward. It will clearly inform us financially. And given that we are quite literally at day one of trying to work through, needing to work through the data in order to inform our budgets moving forward, I just ask colleagues for a little bit of indulgence for officers, because I suspect they're going to be running around like headless chickens trying to pull all this together and make sense of it in order to try and then meet the timetables that we need in order to set our budgets for next year. So all I would do is, and I appreciate this is a very important item for this committee, but I just ask your indulgence to allow them the space to do this, to give us accurate information rather than perhaps what might come at speed, at pace as the modern parlance is, which would be less accurate. So I apologies for butting in on that, but it just seems to me that this is going to be a conversation as we move forward. And of course, the point Catherine made earlier on was that out of some of the data that comes out of, will come out of the stock condition survey, it may, on odd properties, have an impact in this year's budget where we identify urgent need. So that will also have an impact on this year's budget.
Thank you very much. Very well said, Councillor Loudon. Councillor Barlow, please.
Thank you. I think what John's just said is a very very important point. I would just like to point out that, of course, we've been waiting for the housing stock survey for some time. Yeah. It's been changed so that it fits in with our computer systems. So again, it should be a matter of, if it does fit in with any computer system, it should be fairly easy to trawl through the data that you require on it. You are saying that it's not coming to this committee in January, it won't get here till April, but you must have details of it done because you are doing a budget before then. So again, much as you don't want it at pace and wrong, we don't want it like a cart horse and having to wait 6 months to look through something. I think that there needs to be some sort of balance between the two, and perhaps, I know it was mentioned that we might be having a special meeting, you might be having a special meeting. That's great, but I think that there needs to be some dates put down in the calendar so that there is targets.
Yeah, all noted, and we've got some meetings coming forward, so that's all positive. Definitely just need to give everyone time to pull that data down and work out where we are, what's actually already been done, because I think from the stats, from what I heard, some of that's actually already been done. So that would be fantastic. Councillor Brown, please.
So just to say that we did send some right to buy money back in 21-22, and I hope we don't really do that again. It was about 850,000 plus 121,000 interest. I know it's before Tracy's time, 22, and that's a lot of money to have sent back out of our budget at the time. And I just would like to, I can always spend money. I think we should be able to buy. Okay, so I was just saying, Stacey.
Okay, we will need to clarify that, obviously, because, yeah, we'll clarify that. Okay, so moving on, we have a recommendation, obviously, for this agenda item. Giles, did you want to? Yep.
So the recommendation is that the variances identified as part of the revenue and capital monitoring process up to month 6 be acknowledged. And the recommendation for a vote is that the recommendation discussed in section 1 to fund all right to buy acquisitions with 100% right to buy capital receipts be agreed, and the 0.75 million pounds of 0.975 million pounds of budgeted borrowing released by this decision be utilised to fund urgently required electrical compliance work.
So is what we need to vote on that recommendation. Councillor Bellhop, did you need to
propose that?
You'd like to propose? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Brown, proposed by Councillor Bellhop, seconded by Councillor Brown. All in favour? Unanimous.
Great.
Excellent. So, moving on to agenda item. Absolutely. Councillor Brown, could you advise, could you advise where that information came from with reference to the right to buy money in 21-22?
I will find out because I was interested in that bit as well.
If you could let us know where that is, that would be muchly appreciated. Thank you very much. Folks are very helpful at times. Moving on then to agenda item 10. This is the Housing Performance Report. Quarters 1 and 2, 2024-25 can be found on pages 22 to 32. Andy King, Assistant Director for Housing, to present his report, please.
Right there, sorry. Put it on the floor.
Okay, that's working. Brilliant. Good morning, everyone. Oh, that's back again. Usually I do this in tandem with someone. I'm on my own today, so please forgive me. While I make my way through, Amy's going to come in and help me in a little bit on a couple of the slides. This is the first time we've produced the performance data to you in the format that you've got it in today. This is based off of previous feedback around the PI table that used to be put into the reports, which was ultimately a table of a lot of figures and numbers and maybe not the sort of colour and picture that sits behind it. So I'm really hopeful that the format the report's taken today and is reflected in the slides is useful, but welcome your feedback either as part of this or if you want to catch me afterwards, particularly if there's a spelling mistake or something, I'd rather find out. The performance report also now encapsulates our complaints data and also our tenant satisfaction measures, which I'll come on to when we get to that slide in a bit as well. As with previous reports, there's a traffic light rating system within the tables and charts in the report. Green meaning we're meeting or exceeding our targets, amber meaning we're close to target, and red meaning we are outside of target. The targets are set annually and our benchmark for where we would like our performance to be. You'll also see in many of the charts a final 23/24, which is a figure summarising last year's performance as at financial year end. And you'll also see mention to top quartiles. We use the Housemark data to benchmark our performance and set the targets for our key KPIs. So the top quartile is referring to the top 25% of housing providers who have provided their data to Housemark for us to benchmark against. So the first KPI that we would like to cover off is our rent arrears of current tenants as a percentage of our annual rent debit. This continues to be a really strong performing area for the housing service. The table you're seeing on the slide and in your report outlines the total income for the housing revenue account of what we could receive if all rent and charges were paid, and it then calculates a percentage figure based off of the total arrears figure to date. You can see at the end of Q2 we had a total arrears figure of just over £304,000, which translates to a percentage of 1.35%. Our target is 1.82%, so we're really firmly beating that target and very firmly within the top quartile of housing providers. So there's a really positive story going on there, and as we all know, strong income collection performance is really important. It gives us the assurance around the level of income that we can expect to receive in that year, and it gives us greater assurance then around our budgeting, budget setting plans, investment and expenditure. So a very good picture being seen there. The next slide is detailing the percentage of rent lost through properties becoming vacant. Similarly to the level of rent debt on the previous slide, this is looking at what our total income collection could be for the year if all of our properties were full and all of those tenants are paying all of their rent on time every week or month. And then it works out how much rent we've lost through properties being vacant and what that is as a percentage of our overall income potential for that financial year. As we all know, the management of void properties is a really key area for ensuring the continued security of our income and budget as with the rental collection, as well as ensuring people are able to find homes in the places that are needed. What we're seeing on this table is, hopefully you'll agree, a really positive picture in terms of the journey that we've been on with our voids. We can see that there was a peak in rent loss in Q1, but that has significantly reduced through Q2, now down to 2.73%. This is just 0.23% above our target of 2.5. Whilst we may be a way off achieving top quartile figures, hopefully the review board agrees that this is a really good movement in relation to past performance, and it correlates with our commitment to a focus on our voids, which I think we've all acknowledged in the past wouldn't be an overnight fix, but certainly a journey that's heading in the right direction.
Sorry, Chair. Point of order on that figure. Is it correct? Your year to date of 2.73, that surely isn't correct. Surely that's 3.6, I think it is.
Can be correct.
You've got 4.47 for the first quarter, then 2.73. Now, to me, your average would then be your year to date at the moment.
So, without me being a data analyst, what I do know is it's not an average. When it's working out the rent loss, what it's saying is if you carried these voids for the whole year, so if you look at quarter one, if we carried the voids that we had for the whole year, we would have lost 1.052 million. And then when you move into quarter two, it's saying actually you've reduced that. And so if you carry the voids you now have for the whole year, it would cost you 634,000. So it's a cumulative total rather than an average across the two.
That's confusing. I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, I'm not stupid. But at the end of the day, if you're talking about those losses in the first quarter, and then the second quarter is down there, I'll happily chat to you afterwards about it. But that doesn't make sense. That then your year. What's the point of having a year to date in there then? Otherwise, it would just be the last figure in it, wouldn't it?
That's just how our data presents. There's always a year-to-date column, and you'll see on different bars the year-to-date is different to the quarter two.
And if you go ahead a couple, it does actually work out the year-to-date as an average.
Yeah, because it depends on the KPI that we're measuring. But I'm happy to go away and speak to our data team and get some clarity on that for you.
Thank you.
Fab. So the next slide we got to was the percentage of self-contained dwellings vacant and not available to let. Again, demonstrating the positive journey we've been on through our void process and management of void and reduction. Currently, or at the end of quarter two, sorry, it was sitting at 1.77%, which equated to 73 properties. As we've just been made aware, that figure outside of quarter two actually has reduced further to 54 properties. So that's still continuing to reduce through quarter three.
Just to interject, Andy, just to say that we're having the same issue here around the year to date, so there must be something wrong with the system, you know, the information behind the data that's produced the document. So if we look at the quarterly performance rather than the year to date, does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think it's because with these data sets, you will take your end of year figure as the percentage, you know, it's a rolling data, it's not an average data set.
Yeah, sorry. So what I'm trying to say is if we collectively look at quarter one and quarter two performance and maybe just don't worry too much about the year to date information just for today. Is that okay?
Okay, fine.
Is that all right?
No. So yeah, at the end of quarter two, you can see we're just 0.27% away from our target. There's really strong and robust review of our longer term and higher cost voids going on and releasing those in a planned and sustained way. As we've talked about earlier, this is a balance of budget against the cost of the void works, consideration of the potential income from that property, or indeed loss of income, and of course, as I said earlier, the need for homes in those areas. So there's lots of considerations going into the controlled release of those voids into the programme, whilst ensuring that we come in at year end on budget. The next part of your report is showing you the average days to relet a social housing dwelling. At the end of quarter two, the average number of days between a property becoming void and being relet sat at 151.73 days, which brings out, in fact, I'm not going to mention year-to-date average. So that's where we were at the end of quarter two. Quarter two's performance is an improvement of 55.71 days from the end of the last financial year, and an improvement of 93.57 days from the same period last year. So again, really demonstrating the journey that we've been on, that we've talked about in this review board before. It can be helpful to review the median average in order to smooth out data that can be severely skewed by ad hoc figures where you've got particularly high data sets going into there. On the median average, you can see that in July to September this year, in July and September this year, we came very close to our target. The next slide is covering the percentage of routine repairs completed within target. This data is taken from what our system is calculating it believes to have been completed in target, and I deliberately use the word believe, as very recent data interrogation in comparison is showing that our system data is reporting different to what both of our contractors' systems are producing. So there is a huge piece of work going underway at the moment to validate data between the organisations. To give you sort of an example of why that might happen, there are certain types of orders that can't be completed off through the system, through the systems talking to each other, so it's a manual job. And we suspect that there are instances, for example, where we're closing jobs down manually and it's recording the completed date as the date we've manually closed it rather than the date that it was actually completed, which could have been 3-4 weeks before that admin task was completed. So there is a big piece of work going on to validate that data and make sure that we're reporting correctly. And I am very committed to having that data fully reviewed and correct for Q3. With that said, Q2 performance on the data set we're looking at is currently showing a 5% improvement on the end of year figure and a 10% improvement from the same period last year. We're currently 9.6% below target, not 0.96% as I accidentally wrote in the report and realised last night, so apologies, that was a decimal error. Yes. The next part of your report and on the slide is showing the percentage of emergency repairs completed within target. Again, similar story to what I've just covered in terms of the routine repairs, in terms of that data validation and ensuring that it is absolutely correct in our system. And again, very similar story that we're showing a 5% improvement on the year-end figures to date, and again, a 10% improvement on the figures from the same period last year. Across routine and emergency repairs for both Ian Williams and Liberty Gas, we have a combined WIP at the end of Q2 of 908 works orders. The next slide is just giving you an overview of our compliance performance. This is detailing where we're at with our testing programs in our areas of compliance. You can see that FRAs, 100% of our annual inspections have been completed, same with Legionella, lifts and gas, all as of the end of Q2. Our biggest challenge this year has been in relation to our electrical checks and the resulting remedial works. There were performance issues identified with the two previous contractors who were working on this programme for us. We've pulled the works from those contractors and they've now been taken over by Ian Williams for works. We've seen a huge improvement in the results, particularly in terms of the reports of no access that we were receiving, and that story very much being different with the changes that we've implemented. And a huge increase or improvement in the performance in that area. The number of annual EICR checks completed has risen by almost 16% since August alone, since we've made those changes. So they really have helped us catch up with that. And the number of non-compliant properties was reduced by 693, just to put that into figures for you of how many have been completed since we made those changes in August. We've also reduced the number of outstanding electrical remedial actions by 40% since Ian Williams took over doing that for us. So it's a really strong movement in that area, and a big thanks to the team, our compliance team, who are overseeing that as well. This next slide covers off our quarter 1 and 2 complaints, which I'm going to hand over to Amy to talk you through.
Thank you, Andy. Good morning, members. So yes, you can see our figures there. So overall, starting with progress, albeit we're not quite reaching the 10 days that the Ombudsman stipulates, we have made significant progress in getting response times down, jumping from 31 days during quarter 1 down to 17 days for quarter 2. That's mainly due to some staffing changes that we've made, and we've now got an allocated resource within the repairs team who is solely driving the responses to stage 1 complaints. So that's been very effective. You can see the percentages there in relation to complaints that we've upheld, partially upheld and not upheld. So hopefully members find that useful. In relation to stage 2 formal complaints, we have got some current challenges here, both in the rise of numbers, but also in our ability to respond in a timely way. So we know that some of this links to resource challenges. Andy's already touched upon that in terms of some of the challenges, particularly in the asset section. And we are digging in deep in terms of looking at the rationale and reasoning why people are escalating stage 1 complaints up to stage 2, just to help us manage that. As the report sets out, we've now set up a task force to ensure the focus on clearing down the backlog, and work continues on this as a priority. I should also point out that we have liaised directly with those tenants impacted by way of a phone call in order to apologise directly and also offer that reassurance around the urgency in which we're dealing with. So rather than just, communicating via an email or through that letter process, we have put a more personal touch to that, and we have had officers calling around speaking to those tenants directly. I just think for context, it's worth pointing out the figures that Andy's got in the report there under 9.5 of the report. So when you consider the amount of repairs undertaken, and again, we've talked this morning a lot about, Catherine's point around the amount of reactive repairs that we're doing. When you look at that as a figure, and you look at then the complaints as a percentage against that, it's fairly encouraging to see that this stands at 98% of repair jobs are being undertaken without any formal complaints from tenants. So I just think that's useful for context in terms of, the amount of responsive repairs that we are doing at the moment. Just before I hand back to Andy to talk us through the TSMs, just touch on briefly on some other work we've got underway in this area. We did circulate prior to this meeting some more in-depth data and information in relation to formal complaints to the members of the board. We hope you found that useful and insightful. We are continuing to drive this area of work. Fair to say we've been quite reactive in order to just get hold of it at the moment. But that wider piece around learning we're doing and understanding what our complaints are telling us is continuing. I'll hand back to Andy. Maybe we'll take questions at the end. Should we do it that way, Andy?
Thanks, Amy. And apologies, it's just been pointed out to me that the compliance side isn't included within the main report, so we'll get that circulated after the meeting as well, so that you've got a copy of that. So the next part of the performance presentation is going to talk about our tenant satisfaction measures. So as we announced to you at the last Housing Review Board, this is something that we are now doing quarterly throughout the year in order to accumulate the data to then present to the regulator at year end rather than a once a year annual survey. This is the first quarter's data that we've received, so we didn't complete that in quarter 1 just because of timeframes when that decision was made, so that started in quarter 2. So this is the dashboard from our partner who is completing those surveys for us, just giving you a bit of an overview there. I think probably the more helpful analysis is on the next slide. So this table in your report shows a comparison of quarter two's results when compared to the benchmark data from last year's survey, and also detailing where that stands in comparison to what our results were at last year's survey. We can see that satisfaction with complaints handling is the only area to have reduced in satisfaction levels, and I think it's, you know, we are aware of the barriers that we're facing in that and the work that's going on, as Amy's just talked about. With that said, this table also highlights some incredible increases. I caveat that with this is only Q2 and we're aware that this is live data. We're aware of surveying trends. We're aware that whatever survey you're doing, you are more likely to receive negative results throughout winter months, for example. That's just the psychology of it. But it's a pleasing first report to receive. Some of the big highlights in there are the improvement in satisfaction of tenants feeling they live in a well-maintained home. That's gone up by 18.6%. Tenants feeling they live in a safe home has gone up by 14.7%, and tenants feeling that they're kept informed has gone up by 22.9%. So as I say, the caveat that we know this is going to be a changing scene as we gather more data throughout the quarters left of the year, but a positive story and a report that I was certainly very pleased to receive in my inbox back in October. That is the end of all of the performance reports. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Andy. So we'll take questions from outside of the board first. I'm going to just aware we've got agenda items to be carried on with, so I'm going to go to everybody once, get them in first time. Councillor Barlow, I will start with you.
Thank you, Chair. So, first of all, the emergency repairs and the routine repairs. Again, generally the report is good. The figures you're given are all good. Just a little question on it. We seem to be doing a lot less repairs than last year on the average. So we're 20% on emergency repairs down and 15% down on routine repairs, taking an average over the year. I just wonder if that is because we've decided some things that we were perhaps repairing before aren't necessary anymore and not our responsibility, or are we just slowing down the amount of repairs we do? Tenant survey. On the Q2 survey, how many people were surveyed for that, please? And how many does that compare to the 23-24 survey? And on the voids, do we keep a record of the cost of the void? So we get the days it takes, and we understand that, you know, that seems hard to get down. But is that because we're doing really large repairs to these voids? So, you know, we're spending hundreds of thousands of pounds on them. Is there any way that you could give us a breakdown of what the voids cost us, so that we can say that, you know, the majority of them are very cheap voids and it's quick and we can get them out? It's the ones that are bigger that are the problems, and that's why, you know, the numbers are going up or down, even though they have gone down, and it is obviously an improvement of what we had before. Well done.
Entirely up to you. Would you like me to go around so you can bulk up the answers, or?
No, There's a danger that I'll forget my train of thought on the earlier questions. So you're quite right, we are doing less repairs. There's, I think, probably a number of reasons for that. So when you see routine repairs, that encapsulates quite a wide number of different categories of repairs. So you've got your kind of day-to-day response if someone rings up and says, I've got a leak, can you come sort that out under my sink? But then we've also got other sort of surveyed repairs works that are done under the responsive repairs team outside of our planned works team. And those are the areas where we're seeing the kind of biggest reductions. And that is, to be honest, testament to the focus on ensuring that we are coming in at year end on budget. So there are some repair requests that may have come through where we've been open and transparent with that customer and said, you know, at this time we won't be doing that repair, but it has been logged as a request from you, and we'll be coming to look at it. And that will be repairs that aren't a health and safety hazard, aren't a decent homes standard issue, aren't a HHSRS issue. So if all of those things are being taken into consideration to ensure that we're putting our budget towards the necessary repairs that keep people safe in their homes. In terms of the tenant satisfaction survey. I can't remember the figure of how many were surveyed in Q2. I want to say, and I will confirm this, but I believe it was around about 200. We have to do a minimum percentage of our tenants in order to meet the thresholds of the regulator by year end. So last year we exceeded that threshold. I hope we will again this year, but of course it's going to be a building picture over the following quarters. But by the end of Q4, we'll need to have surveyed that minimum percentage, which again, I'm not going to quote because it's not coming to the forefront of my mind, but we will ensure that is done. Of course, if we don't meet it, we have to go out and resurvey additional tenants to ensure that we do.
Q2 was 175.
Oh, thank you. Wasn't too far off of around 200. Thank you. Did you hear that? Yep, Q2 was 175. In terms of breakdown of cost of voids, of course, we have those breakdowns. It's out in our financial monitoring, and we've got a budget for void spend, so we're consistently monitoring that. And that's sort of what I was alluding to earlier as well in terms of how we release our voids as well. So it's looking at knowing the average number of voids that we get through. We have several categories for a void, so they're broken down into V1, V2 and V3, void 1, void 2, void 3, which is ultimately the bracket of cost that it's coming into. V1s are our standard voids and they are just released as a matter of course through the programme. There's no reason to hold those. V2s and V3s are cause for pause for us because it's showing this is a higher cost void. Why? V3s in particular, because they are voids that are going to come in, and I'm going to look at my colleague now because I quote this wrong, above 15,000? 20, thank you. Voids that come in above 20,000 are classified as a V3, and that's when we take more of a kind of pragmatic view of that property and, is it worth the investment? And I think that will probably come up a little bit later in the acquisition disposals policy that's coming for discussion.
Thank you very much. You went through it all very well. Next, I have Councillor Loudon, please.
Thank you, Andy. I don't want to sound complacent or jinx it, but it did feel as if the report was a positive one in its thrust across the piece. So that obviously is welcome. So that is good news for tenants, quite clearly. But equally, it must be good news for officers, because it must be dispiriting to come to work each day and just be faced with negative. So to have some good news and to be able to see good news over the horizon must help our productivity, which I'm sure my colleagues would love to hear about. But I just wanted to pick up on 2 points, and there's section 7, the routine repairs completed in target, and then 8, emergency repairs completed in target. So the first one with the routine repairs, you say at 7.4, and this is my point is going to be the same for both in effect. You say in 7.4 at the very end there, we're working with Liberty Gas to better reconcile outstanding job and completion dates and ensure robust and accurate reporting. Then within 8.4, you say, again at the end, working with Ian Williams to resolve this. And basically you're talking in there about trying to reconcile data between the two organisations. So if I look at the Q1 and Q2s for both 7 and 8, they're sort of fairly static. Each one's fairly static. So we've got to a point. So are we potentially needing two things? One is to just a lockstep to get us over that. What is almost, it almost feels as if it's stuttered to a bit of a point. So do we need a lockstep to get us over? That's one point. And is the second that perhaps part of this is about the accuracy of the data reporting? And if we were talking here about polling data outside general election or what have you, there would have a caveat, wouldn't we? Which is, this is accurate within plus or minus, X percent. So is that something we need to take account of, that we may be within plus or minus X percent, which could impact the numbers?
Thank you, Councillor Alden. So yes, data reporting in this, it's only as good as the information we put into the system. So I have confidence in the data that's being pulled from our system. I think the question mark is around the data that's within the system. I think, to give you an example of what might have caused a particularly big disparity between our data and Ian Williams and Liberty Gas. And that's one of the reasons I'm really questioning, is it because it's both contractors are saying it doesn't match with our data. If it was one, you might be saying, oh, well, maybe you just wanted to look better. But actually, there's a clear pattern here. So members of the board may remember that the work in progress for WIP, sort of back in December time last year, we were sort of at a WIP of top 1000s, I believe, when I joined, and we knew that there was an issue with the system showing a lot of open jobs that actually have been completed. Without getting too technical, mostly because I'd be lying if I said I understood all of the technicality behind it. But ultimately, you've got the lines, the channels through which our contractor systems are speaking with our systems. What became clear through that is that there was some issues, whether that was with the way that it had been set up, whether it was the data that they'd sent through was then hitting our system and bouncing back. There's all sorts of issues, a lot of which have been fixed, and we're now doing very regular reconciliation of that data to make sure it is matching up. But we had a lot of backlog data that had to get manually closed down within the system. And that's where I think, without having dove into it overly deep, I'd say it's a piece of work that's ongoing now, but I suspect that's where a big disparity in the data has come from, is that we've manually closed jobs down, and because we're doing it in such a bulk, we've sort of, the day, as I say, the day we've done it, that's the date that's gone through as all of those jobs were finished, but actually they could have been weeks, even months before, if it was a legacy order. So it's going back through and checking that data and ultimately correcting it, so that our system is then outputting a truer reflection of the picture that we can all be confident in. Is there a first question that I've skipped over?
No, I asked one about the data, and the second was, is there something that we actually need to do performance-wise in order just to get us over what has become in both areas a consistent level, so just to get us slightly nearer target?
Yeah, no, I hear you. So once we've done that validation and we've got that true picture, then absolutely, if that is showing that our data, for example, is correct, then yes, we need to get that performance improved, absolutely. To give you an example, Ian Williams' data is showing actually jobs are being completed within target in the top 90%. So it's very different to our data. Whether or not it's somewhere in the middle is a question, then we'll figure that out through the analysis. But if we were to take their data, for example, actually there's no issue. It's very much where you'd expect or want it to be. So yeah, but that would definitely be a follow-on piece of work once you've done that validation.
Thank you very much. Next on the list, I have Councillor Gazzard, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Andy. Can I say, a very good report, thank you, and I like the way it's laid out. For me, it's very helpful. Can I just, first of all, say on your emergency repairs, as someone that had to call out the emergency team a couple of weeks ago, extremely impressed. They were there within hours, so congratulations on that, and I did really appreciate it. I just want to touch on one of my topics is voids. In 6.4 of the report on page 27, you acknowledge that your target is 78 days to get a vacant property back into use again, if you like. And you go on to say that you've been taking measures to try and sort that out. could you tell me what sort of measures you're doing to try and get these properties back out for people to live in? Because you know, we have loads of people that are desperate for council accommodation. And my second point is at many HRB meetings, cabinet and full council meetings, I've raised the issue of voids, and I've been promised, I don't know how many times, that ward members would be able to have a breakdown of where the voids are in their ward. The last time I raised it, which wasn't very long ago, I was told that we're nearly at that stage. Now, when will ward members receive information of where the voids are in their ward so that they can keep an eye on them as well? Thank you.
Thank you. Firstly, I'm really glad you had a good experience with your emergency repair request, so thank you for that feedback. In terms of the voids and the measures that we're taking to improve, so back earlier on in the year, we recruited in a void manager to oversee the void process. So that's part of the success that we're seeing in the figures coming down over time, that we've now got that kind of direct focus on the voids. As I sort of noted earlier as well, that review of what voids we want to get through. So we had a backlog of the sort of higher cost voids. We knew that it would be not make business sense to simply release them all out to our contractor and get all of those works done, financially, but also in terms of actually taking a pragmatic assessment of what those properties would be. So it's being done in a planned way. Of course, with the figures that you're seeing on the average days to relet, every time we relet one of those longer term voids, it's adding a high figure to that data set because the data gets added to that as that property is tenanted. So that's when you've got the final figure of how many days it's been void. So that's why we sort of put in a caveat there around looking at the median as well, which will give you more of a true reflection of the normal time that it's taking. And that's where in July and September we're seeing that we are nearly dropping into target. So we know that on our new sort of standard voids, our performance is much better. Our figures are still being slightly skewed by those legacy longer term voids. And again, I think part of that will probably come into the paper that's coming further down the agenda as well, around what we do with some of those properties. Ward members being provided the breakdown of voids. You're not imagining it. I remember that conversation. Apologies, because it's probably something, and I'm not using this as a get out, but it's probably something Susie was overseeing and I've not picked up. So if I can take that away and have a discussion with the team about how we get that data broken down and then come back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next I have Councillor Bailey, please.
Thank you, Sarah. My question has been asked by Councillor Gazzard. However, I have a supplementary to if I may. The situation with the alleged government and some of their silly ideas of taxing people has led to a situation where many local landlords in East Devon are going to be slowly selling up their properties for rent, which is going to put us in a position where there's, instead of hundreds of people coming to us for houses, we could be in a position within a few years where the thousands of people are coming to us for houses. And I don't know how we're going to help the situation. Have you any ideas on that at all? It's a big question, but it needs an answer. Thank you very much.
I might have some thoughts in terms of from the HRA's point of view. For us, I think it's about focusing on the homes that we have got, providing good quality homes, utilising our stock well. I think the acquisitions and disposal policy, and sorry Liam, I keep referencing it just to remind you that it's coming up, but I think that's going to be key. And obviously there's lots of work going on about how we utilise that 100% right to buy receipt to increase our stock. But I think also that is a problem that the HRA on its own will not be able to fix, and this is going to be a wider policy question, and housing and homelessness policy.
Thank you very much. Next, I have to speak Rachel, please.
Yeah, you'll come up as me, sorry.
There we go. There's another one there.
Okay.
Oh, gosh. On that.
When's that one?
There we go.
Hi, thank you. Definitely not. Just a couple of things, because this is the area that I'm obviously involved in as a tenant. I've been in East Devon for about 2 years, and my first time ever living in a council property. What I have seen over the last while is a massive lack of repairs or response. And I know it must be quite horrendous, but just personally, from what I've seen, is even over, I would say, just for example, over the last year, I've gone to emergency and put in a request for a smoke detector in the common area. And they send me to, I think it's called Estate Department, who, I don't know who they are, but they never return a call or they never get back to you. And unfortunately, we have some smokers in the building, and without making personal complaints about your neighbours, it's pretty serious. And we have no smoke detectors in any of our hallways, even though Ian Williams has just spent the last year and a half in Sidford upgrading them buildings because of fire precautions. And you're going, this is something pretty demanding to keep a safe home. 2 weeks ago, I called emergency and asked them with regard to, we can't open our front door. They've put in a new access intercom system, and from just example, my flat, the doors aren't opening, which is a little worrying because our windows only open about this much, and, I've got a tree about 2 feet away. Honestly, I've looked at this. Could I actually jump out the window if there was a fire or something happened? And they said, no problem, someone will call you back. Never got a call back. And these are pretty urgent. So I was quite surprised when they were saying that 98% of repairs have been completed. It doesn't feel like that on ground level. It doesn't feel like that, to be honest with you. And here also on one of your surveys, it's saying that the satisfaction with complaints handling is 15%. That's incredibly low. It is incredibly low. And I don't know if it's a lack of staff, if it's a lack of money. It seems to be with these void properties, it's taking 5 months to re-let it. So where are these repair people? And there seems to me there's a glitch between calling East Devon Council and then them transferring it to Ian Williams, and there seems to be no simple way of coordinating this. We don't get a complaints number or just, they just say, no problem, someone will call you back and it will be fixed, and boom, never hear from them again. So I just wanted to bring that up because it is a little worrying. There's a lot of older people in some of the buildings where I live. And smoke detectors, not being able to open up your front door with the new intercom system is quite major. Thank you.
No, thank you. Obviously, some potentially concerning issue there, actually. So we'll pick up with that after the meeting. If you could fill me in on the detail behind that, and we'll check the systems. It goes without saying, fire safety, along with other health and safety, is top of our agenda. And we've got a very conscientious, dedicated compliance team who are committed to getting those sorts of things sorted. So if there's something like that being overlooked, I absolutely need to know the detail about it. And I won't ask you for it now since we're being recorded. I don't need to give you details on it, but we'll jump on that for sure. And similarly with the intercom system, If that's not working, again, that's something we need to absolutely look in on. I think as a wider piece, we know that communication is the key driver of dissatisfaction in our complaints, for example. I do a lot of reviews of our complaints processes. Most of them have to come through me to be authorised, if I'm completely honest. That's part of the issue with the backlog, that since Susie left, I've had to pick up the property and assets, so, and we're dealing with that. We've got a plan in place to clear that. But I see that common theme coming through a lot, and obviously that's recorded through Amy's team as well in terms of the common themes. So we know that's important. We know that it needs to form part of our service delivery improvements as we move forward. I think things anecdotally have improved somewhat from maybe where we were, but certainly recognise that we're not where we would want to be in that utopia either. And just a few weeks ago, it's probably actually only a week ago, but time flies, we did our Housing Away Day. So we had all of the staff from housing together to sort of talk about some of these common themes. And in the same way that we sort of talked about communication with our customers, also about communication internally and the importance of that, and everyone gets it. And as Katrin said earlier, we've got the right people in the right roles. We now need to get those processes driven in place so that the end user feels the outcome of those improvements. So absolutely take those comments on board, and I don't disagree, and I think it's something that we've acknowledged and pulled out of the feedback and data that we're getting, and hopefully making the right steps. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Katrin.
I just wanted to, notwithstanding that obviously we need to look into the specific of the individual case just been raised, but I just want to set hairs running on a wider level, because we will have stay put policies in place where therefore fire alarms within that communal area is not a requirement. So I just want to really reiterate that. In terms of it comes under different legislation, different requirements when there is a stay put policy in place in flats. Okay, I just need to not set hairs running and just say that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Councillor Ledger. Just before, can I just ask, do you have any declarations at all?
None that I'm aware of, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Apologies, I'm late getting back. I want to just focus on one of the real positives from that report, and it is generally really positive, but on voice performance in the last year it's been a monumental effort to get us down to the point where we are now, which is just over 50 voids, 30 are sitting with allocations ready to go. It's just incredible how much you've done and how much work that's gone into that. If we look at this time last year, I want to say 126, 121, around that level. So to drop that many, plus we have around a 9% turnover each year in voids. So you're looking at over 400 voids for a single year. That's more than one a day. That's absolutely fantastic work from the team, and it really we need to drill that point home, how much of an improvement's actually happened. Notwithstanding, there is still so much more work to do, but it's just great, and it's refreshing that we've got the right officers in the right role. We've got teams that are well stocked, and we're moving in the right direction. I think complaints handling is still an area that we need to improve on. We've put the right teams in. We're leading into the kind of winter period where you'll see an increase in the amount of jobs that we're going to get. And with that, the increase in the amount of complaints, and with our change in direction, that we aren't doing the nice to haves anymore. We are specifically focusing on health and safety issues and really tackling to make people homes that are of a decent standard and people are safe in their homes. That will generate more complaints. So we're not at the top of the bell curve yet for that, but I know as soon as we reach that point, we are going to be on a downward slope. And it's just really, really good to hear.
Thank you very much. Next I have Councillor Bailey, please.
Thank you very much. I'm going back to communications, and I'm talking as a tenant. because of the mail, the Royal Mail or whatever the mail is, we do not get the mail now. So if there's anything sent out to tenants saying somebody's calling, we're not getting it until after they've called. And also, putting my other hat on as a councillor, I have lots of residents that haven't got the internet, they haven't got computers. So unless you ring them, some of them don't answer their phone. Is there any way you can find some other way of the ones that you can't get in touch with, another way of getting in touch with them? Because the mail is not getting to us now, because we're not getting any mail. So it is a constant, it's there, isn't it? I've had somebody call on me, I didn't even know they were coming, because I didn't have a letter. So I just wanted to bring that into the mix. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, sorry, Sarah, I just keep jumping in without letting you. Yeah, if we're saying mail is too slow, they don't answer their phones and they don't have access to the internet. I'm not, to be honest, completely sure what other, but what I would say is in terms of the access that tenants have got to that communication channel, there's lots that we're working on. You know, we're not there yet, but we are working in the background on a tenant portal, for example, where people will be able to see that detail about their property, what jobs have been raised, has that been booked in, etc. And for tenants, just really as a shameless plug, actually, for tenants who are not digital confident, we are running digital inclusion sessions for our communities team, and they are desperately trying to get more uptake on that. So if we could spread that around our communities, that is something that we're doing, and through that program we're training our community staff to actually be able to deliver that training themselves moving forward, so we can kind of increase a program of digital inclusion for tenants who aren't confident in those areas. And I think, you know, we're moving into a digital world, you know, not just here but actually in all aspects of life, and so I think we're going to be in a position where people need to be able to access information in that way if they want it timely and accurately.
Sorry, I live in sheltered accommodation, and I'm talking as a tenant now. We have the recording there, you know, the system. If there's a lot of elderly that use that system, you know, you could come across on that system if they've got a repair, or they may be able to come across on that. I know they're busy. I know the Home Guard is busy, I know. But I'm just thinking it's another communication for people maybe that are disabled, that can't go out. You know, I don't know. It's just another thought. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Right, last speaker now on this subject, Councillor Rob. See how I did that?
As a new tenant to Council House, I'm going to say my experience has actually been really positive from beginning to end. I mean, I've been in rental accommodation for very long, and there's quite a lot of fear around rental accommodation prices and increases. But I needed a repair done that was done within 3 weeks. It wasn't necessarily an emergency, but it was done, and it was done by someone who was really polite. I think the follow-up, I just think my own personal experience, someone brand new coming into something that I'd had rental for so long, that it was actually a really positive experience from day one, from the Devon Home Choice Support Network that gave me, and I'm in a supported complex as well with 3 other flats around me, and I just think I was treated really fair and just. It was good. Yeah.
That's really nice to hear. So yeah, thank you very much. Lovely. So this item is just for the Housing Review Board to note going forward. Before we quickly go for literally a 5-minute break so people can just stand up, grab a drink, come back. I'm just going to hand over to Katrin, who's just going to update us on that right to buy part that Councillor Brown raised earlier.
Yep, just to clarify that I've heard from our HRA accountant, financial accountant, and no monies have been returned whatsoever under right to buy. And in fact, in the years that councillor, you mentioned. I've got the Housing Review Board paper here, and there's nothing in there that I can see either as to what would have caused any confusion. So if you could find what you've got, just so we can be certain, but from our perspective, from the HRA accountant, no right to buy monies have ever been returned. Thanks.
Thank you very much, everybody. Right, so it is now 12 minutes past, so yeah, 20 past, please, back. Thank you very much. Right, everyone. We have 3 agenda items left to do in around 30 minutes. So, if everybody is here and back, I don't think we're missing anybody to go forward. Are we? No, that's all good. So we're moving on now. We're on agenda item 11, and this is the Housing Review Account Position Statement that can be seen on pages 33 to 4. Liam Redding to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. So the purpose of this report is to provide HRB with an update on the various pieces of work that are underway that collectively form the strategic plan that's in place to ensure that we provide good quality, safe and regulatory compliant homes. So as HRB are aware, the housing service is facing quite significant pressures. I think it's important to highlight that these pressures reflect the issues and pressures facing stockholding authorities across the country. And these include things like increased cost, rent caps, increased regulatory burdens and other similar pressures. So turning to the strategic plan, I won't go through each element in detail, but what we try to do is set this out in a diagram, which is at point 8 of the report. So we've already discussed this morning the stock condition survey, which is going to be the foundation for all of our plans moving forward. So now that we have that data, we can progress with the business plan and stock options review, which is the piece of work we've engaged Savills to assist with. So at the same time we're doing that, we've got the budget process for next year, we've got the HRA sustainability plan, which is our short-term plan to ensure the sustainability of the HRA. We've also got the recommendations from the CIPFA review, which will feed into improvements in day-to-day financial management of the HRA. So moving forward, once we complete the business plan and options review, we expect to be able to answer the question, which is, can the current approach deliver safe, warm and regulatory compliant homes? If the answer is no, then we will need to consider an alternative approach or an alternative business model. And I should stress that the emphasis on consider an alternative model at that point. Hopefully, the answer is going to be yes, we can meet the challenge, and then we can move forward with the business planning process to develop a 30-year business plan and the associated plans that will sit alongside that. So that will include a housing delivery plan, which will set out our development ambitions, including on our garage sites, and also the asset management strategy and other associated plans and policies. So just to explain the business plan and options review in a bit more detail, essentially it's a financial review taking account of the costs involved in addressing stock condition issues and providing good quality homes. Obviously, this is balanced against rental income, but also national policy considerations, such as a long-term rent settlement from central government, and other cost burdens that we may have to factor in, such as increased standards or net zero. Importantly, the review is also going to consider the interrelationship between the HRA and the general fund and any implications for the council moving forward. Turning back to the report, we have made reference to the stock condition survey in the report, and that includes a few blanks, I'm afraid. Unfortunately, we didn't have the data at the time we went to publication. But as you know, Curry and Brown have provided a presentation this morning, and we will come back with more details on the stock condition survey in due course. So hopefully this report provides a useful summary of the significant amount of work that's going to underway or planned and how it all fits together to ensure that we can provide good quality, safe and compliant homes for our residents. And happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Liam. So outside of committee, do we have any questions at all? No? Lovely. Brilliant. Thank you. Councillor Barlow.
Thank you very much. It's very simple. It just saying then about the timing. When will it be coming back? Any idea? Do we have a date? I know council doesn't like dates, so we like seasons, but would we have any season date would be good.
Councillor Barlow, there is a roadmap in the report, at the end of the report, and that outlines broadly when certain things are going to take place. We will be coming back, I'm going to have to say, in the spring with the kind of business plan and options review. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Committee members, do we have any questions from inside committee? If not, this report is just for noting. Councillor Burhart, I nearly did it. Councillor Burhart.
Sorry, Chair. I'd like to commend the report and really appreciate the depth that it's gone into. Particularly interested in the committee will have been and the board will have been alarmed over the previous year about the roller coaster ride that the HRA has been on. And it's great to see that actually a SIP for independent review has been commissioned of the status of the HRA with recommendations. And actually what we're seeing today is the benefit of the controls, tighter controls that have been put in place and that the SIP for independent review identifies. So going back sort of several agenda points, I'm afraid, but a point that Councillor Barlow made about are we confident that we can achieve the year-end targets and forecast for the HRA with those internal controls reinforced, then the answer is yes, but providing they stay in place and people are adhering to them. Okay, but I commend the report. Thank you.
Fantastic. So, no more questions? I did pause this time. Brilliant, thank you very much. So that's just to note, agenda item 11. Thank you very much. So moving on to agenda item 12, this is the acquisitions and disposals policy. Can be found on pages 45 to 63. And I will go back over to Liam Redding again to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to obviously seek approval for a strategic acquisitions and disposals policy. So the policy sets out the circumstances in which we would either acquire or dispose of properties. As members will be aware, we have acquired properties in the past, and these acquisitions have been guided by an internal policy framework. So this document reflects the existing internal approach to acquisitions. With regards to disposals, the document sets out the circumstances in which we would consider disposing of a property, and typically this will be where the cost of repairs significantly outweighs the future rental income from that property, or in certain cases where there's low or no demand for a particular property. So it's important to stress that this isn't a framework for any kind of large-scale transfer or sell-off of council stock. It's to enable the effective asset management and tackle non-performing assets which are detrimental to the overall health of the HRA. And this is standard good practice for all stockholding authorities. They should have an effective asset management strategy and disposals policy in place, so it's consistent with that. The other benefit of disposing of properties is the ability to use that income to reinvest in our stock, to either improve the standard or to acquire or to build new homes, which obviously helps to maintain stock levels and contribute to an improvement in the overall financial health of the HRA. In practice, there are likely to be a fairly limited number of disposals overall. The stock condition data is going to provide us with the information that we need to establish if there are properties that we may want to consider for disposal. And when we've reviewed that stock data, we'll then have a clearer idea on potential disposals. And this will be expressed within a strategic asset management strategy for the authority, which I've referred to previously. So that'll be developed early next year, and that obviously links with the business plan work that we're doing. So whilst the asset management strategy will provide the longer term strategic plan for disposals, it's important that we have a policy framework in place now for any ad hoc disposals that we identify in this interim period. So in summary, that the policy and the policy will help us manage our stock effectively and should help contribute to the overall improvement of the health of the HRA. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Liam. So outside of committee, do we have any questions? Councillor Gazzard first, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. Am I correct? Excuse me. Am I correct in thinking that if this is adopted, you could use this policy for disposal of void properties? Because I'm concerned that that shouldn't be the case. Am I right in thinking that first? Sorry. Thank you.
Chair, that is correct. We would do what we call a net present value calculation, and it refers back to the comment I made earlier about the future rental income not being sufficient to cover the cost of repairing. So from an effective asset management perspective, you would want to dispose of properties that are, where the cost significantly outweighs the future rental income. So yeah, and that will apply to voids, potentially.
Could I come back then, please, Chair?
Yes.
Well, I personally can't support this. I think it's wrong that we are seriously considering selling our properties off to somebody else to put it right when we have plenty of people that would like to live in a council accommodation. I mean, wouldn't it be cheaper then if the void property is as bad as what you might think it is? Wouldn't it be cheaper to demolish it and rebuild a house on site? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gazzard. I think at this point I'll bring in Councillor Ledger, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. I understand the sentiment that you're going with, Councillor Gazzard, but from the briefing that we had with Cohen Brown, there's going to be a number of properties in there that we're not going to be able to get up to an EPC value that is a safe, comfortable, decent home standard. So for that very reason, they are going to have to be disposed of, along with a number of other voids that we need to be more strategic about. This is something that we haven't done previously, and all we will be doing is putting residents into subpar housing. And I think that's the point that we need to get to. We want to be a provider that is providing a good home that is secure, that it's comfortable to live in, and it's as cheap as possible to heat. I don't think if we reject this policy today, we're not going to be able to achieve that. This will free up funds so that we can then reinvest in our stock, and we need it for our security moving forward as a housing provider, so that we can continue to provide for the residents of East Devon. If we go against it today, we're not being good stewards to the actual housing stock itself. I think that's just the point that I would like to make. Sorry, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ledger. I'll bring Katrin in at this point, please.
Just to add to Dan's comments, really, it's just to say that any disposal will come with a full options appraisal, and should that be multiple properties on a site where demolition and rebuild is a possibility, that will also be considered as part of that options appraisal. It won't be just simply discarding of stock without any due diligence. This is actually allowing us to just maintain the stock, as Dan has just reiterated, really around that kind of healthy and suitable accommodation, rather than having effectively dead stock sat void for evermore, because of the costs do not balance out in terms of the works needed on those properties. So it's all going to be part of a full options appraisal. It's not going to be just on a piece of paper, just decisions made by officers. We will have to demonstrate that we have considered all options, one of which could well be demolition and rebuild, if that is appropriate.
Thank you very much. Councillor Barlow, please.
Thank you, Chair. I totally agree with this policy. I think it's a very important policy that you have. You have to have this as an option. There are always times when when a property, doesn't matter whether it's private land, council land, where it is hugely expensive to change it, and it then becomes uneconomic. You're better off to sell it, use the money to improve the quality of the homes you've got, or buy a new one. I do think that on your key objectives of the policy, it says increasing the supply of affordable housing to meet the local demand. That's wonderful, but I just think you need to change that to increasing the supply of good quality affordable housing, because it's not just about the numbers, it's about the quality of the housing. So I do support this. The other thing I would say is your process for disposals. I am concerned that you've got in there that you would rather let it to other community-led providers, housing groups, etc. Does that mean you're going to have to reduce the price? Who's going to work out what's best value? Would it not be better to just say you will put them to auction, their best price will be given for them, and then you will be able to put that money back to best use, rather than trying to find other people that want to take them on for less money?
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Catherine, please.
I hear you, Ian, and in an ideal world that would be nice and easy, wouldn't it? But I think from a community perspective and understanding our wider responsibilities as an authority, we have to consider who those properties, the hands that the properties may fall into. Is that the best way to describe it? So it is a part of that due diligence piece for me that we have to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and that'll be done on a case-by-case basis. But we do agree around your rewording, absolutely agree around the rewording to include good quality homes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So last I have on my list, Councillor Burhop, please.
Thank you, Chair. I also echo the support for this policy. I think best use of the council's resource should be considered at all times. I am focused with a different hat on, if you like, as Audit and Governance Chair, on the control of the disposal process itself. And please, Director of Housing, don't take this in the wrong way, but I would be much more comfortable if there was a dual signatory and authorisation process that is put in place for a member of the senior management team plus the Director of Housing authorising a disposal. Yeah, it just wasn't clear from this policy. I know it said in conjunction with, but it doesn't say categorically that will be the case. So if I look at items, paragraph 16, it's therefore recommended the delegated authority to be granted to the Director of Housing in agreement with the section 151 officer. It just seems it needs to, the authorisation needs to be one of the senior management team as a minimum, plus the Director of Housing to make that decision, in my opinion. Thank you.
Sorry, waited for all the lights to come on and off. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that was our intention. I agree with you that the wording doesn't stipulate that, but it was our intention that all three of us would need to sign to agree. But it's maybe the wording in agreement with rather than in conjunction with, maybe is potentially a better word. But yeah, our intention was that all three of us had to sign it off and had to agree it.
Councillor Burhop, is that a proposal then with the change of wording?
I haven't got words in mind, but yes, it should be clarified to say that all three members of the senior management, what are we trying to achieve? Is it 2 members out of the 3 of the senior management team plus the Director of Housing, or all 3 members of the senior management team plus the Director of Housing?
That is what we thought, and it is the wording that we use in all of our, so it is everywhere that we use that wording in agreement with. It was the lead, therefore the director would be the lead to bring it forward as a proposal, and then in conjunction or in agreement with the section 151 and then the monitoring officer. That's the idea, because it's the wording that we use everywhere, but we can amend it if that's what seems fit.
No, that will be absolutely fine if that's the wording that's going to be used.
So we have a proposer. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Brown, would you like to speak?
Do I have to second before I speak?
Sorry, what are we seconding? Are we seconding
The
Councillor Burhop's proposal?
Burhop's
Because as I understand
proposal,
it,
yes.
That's already contained within the policy anyway. Yes.
So we're just seconding.
Just seconding, yes.
The policy. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
But yep, okay, I do agree with this with the voids. But do we get to see a list of what properties are going to be disposed of in this delegated manner? And will this also, what is happening to the Millway Community Centre? Is that one of these properties which we'd like to know about?
Right, okay, so we've got a proposal from Councillor Burhop. What we need is a seconder for his proposal so that the wordings for the authorisation of any disposal is as he has proposed. So that will then be adopted within the policy. So we need a seconder for Councillor Burhop.
So just to confirm, so
Sorry.
we all know where we
So
are
good,
here.
so we're looking at good housing.
So,
So that needs to be proposed within the within house within.
Councillor Barb, are you happy to accept that change that Councillor Barlow brought forward in the wording of this recommendation?
I am.
And then Councillor Brown, are you happy to accept that as well as the seconder? Who would like to second it? 15 minutes remaining, people.
I'll go
Rob,
for it.
Are
I'll
you
second
happy
it, please.
with the change of wording?
Change of wording.
Excellent. Everybody understands what the recommendation is. I'm now going to get Giles to read it so everyone understands before we can take a vote.
So which words are we changing?
Good quality. You want to speak? Okay.
Where are we? Which wording is it we're changing?
Councillor Martin, would you like to speak while we're just working this out? Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. It's an extension of what Councillor Brown has said. I want to know, interestingly, I have had a message this morning saying there's a rumour that we're disposing of our assets. Is that true, council houses? I'd like to know how many voids we're talking about, please. And will the investment go back into new council houses? Because as far as I understand, we already have budgets for repairs. So will we be building? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We do have 2 or 3 properties that we have identified for potential disposal. As I was explaining earlier, the stock condition survey data will allow us to establish how many properties across, say, a 5-year period that we may want to consider for disposal. And that will be contained within the asset management strategy. But at the moment, that list is very small, as I say, just a small handful of properties. In terms of reinvestment of those funds, it's going to be capital income coming into the authorities. We'll have to make a decision in terms of whether that's reinvested into repairs, into the existing stock, or to build new homes. As I said, we will have a housing investment and development plan that sets out our ambitions, so that'll be a funded plan, and that will include potentially some disposal income. So it'll be a combination of both in terms of how we spend that capital.
Okay, thank you for answering that. I suppose my only concern is that a few months ago, we all voted on extra budget going into housing. And here we might be spending more on repairs. So, yeah, that's why I asked the question. Why would we need to have extra? Why would this money have to go into repairs and improving our housing stock instead of creating more homes? Because there's such a dire need for it out there.
I was just going to say that if you, by doing that, by getting extra money in, it might then lower the benchmark of where you're going to sell a void property. So if you've got extra money in and there's a property of £100,000 that normally you would sell off because you can't afford to do it, if you've got extra money in, you can then raise that bar so that you can then fix that property. So it's like you take one to fix 2 others, and it's just economic sense, I think.
Okay. Councillor Brown, you haven't had your question quite answered yet?
No, I haven't had my question answered.
Exactly
That's
where
right.
we are now for you.
Yep.
Liam will answer that for you. That was around the voids in
Do I
certain
need to repeat
areas.
it? I'll repeat my question.
So in terms of disposals, these will be reported to HRB, so any disposal will be reported to HRB. In relation to Millway Rise, we haven't considered that for disposal at all at this stage. Yes. Yes, we haven't looked at that one now.
So have you actually looked at it to see what it needs repair it to get it fit for use again?
Just to sort of note, Chair, that I don't feel that this is a very specific operational matter. We can absolutely talk about it later. Millway Community Centre was closed due to risk issues, whilst pending quotes for works that are needed there. So this doesn't really come under this category because it's not related, it's not being proposed to disposal or anything. It's just part of chain operational works that are needed while we try and keep people safe.
It'd just been nice to get an answer to my emails that I sent through.
Councillor Ledger, did you want to come in at this stage at all, or no? Oh, lovely. So we have a recommendation, a proposer and a seconder for this, to adopt the recommendation. Giles.
So the recommendation is, I hope I get this right, that the strategic acquisitions and disposals policy be adopted with the recommendation by the Housing Review Board that the primary objectives of the policy at number 1, the enhanced housing stock, the words good quality be added to including good quality, affordable and accessible housing options. That's the first recommendation. The second one is that delegated authority be granted to the Director of Housing in agreement with the Section 151 officer and the Director of Governance and Licensing, the monitoring officer, to authorise the disposal of individual non-contiguous HRA assets up to a maximum value of £500,000 in accordance with the adopted acquisitions and disposals policy and in consultation with the portfolio holder for sustainable homes and communities. And the third part of the recommendation, that all acquisitions and disposals within the HRA be reported to the Housing Review Board and Cabinet.
Okay, right. Is everybody in agreement with that recommendation? Can we have a show of hands, please? Unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
I can give it to Catherine. Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. That's agenda item 12. So moving on, last agenda item, we have item 13, review and replacement of home safeguard equipment. This is to receive a report from Catherine Stark, Director for Housing and Health, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Chair. This is just to note that this piece of work was due to be coming today as per the forward plan, and I just didn't want it to get lost in terms of, I wanted to note that it isn't coming as a paper. As you will know, we have progressed the work to go towards purchasing the platform for it, which needed to happen first before this report could come. So the work is in train, and I will ask the Assistant Director for Strategy Services, who is responsible for this area of work, to produce a timeline for us, and I can circulate that prior to the next HRB, just so you're aware of what now that means in terms of the delays on getting the kind of platform in place, and then therefore the delays in bringing that wider piece for you around the home safeguard equipment and the different procurement processes we're going to have to go through for that. I just wanted to acknowledge that it wasn't here, if that makes sense.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions or anything? I know. No questions at all. That is just a note then. So that was very quick. Well done. Impressed. So moving on to the last item that's not on the agenda, been added in any other business, and that's to receive an update from Catherine, please.
Just to note, we've got so many passionate staff working in housing. Do you know what? In our little break, it enabled the fire our fire surveyor, our fire manager who looks after the kind of contracts for fire, ran down the stairs to try and grab me to give clarity on the kind of case that we talked about earlier on. So just to clarify, and without revealing addresses, the last risk assessment was carried out in the last 3 months at the property. No concerns were highlighted. There is a stay put policy in place, which means that detection must be kept in date and maintained inside the flat only. There is a remediation plan, though, in place with regards to detection upgrade system in those flats. And to add, there is currently only one outstanding action on that remedial works programme. So it was just to put minds at ease, I guess, at rest. However, it is noted that clearly where there is a kind of concern or query as to how people deal with fire in their properties and what that looks and feels like for them, there's clearly an issue there in terms of how we communicate that. So that will be an action that we do pick up from this in terms of people understanding what the requirements are in those blocks and things like that. So we will pick that up. But I just wanted to just clarify, Ryan literally ran down the stairs to grab me to make sure that we had that here during today's meeting so that we could kind of set minds at ease if there were any concerns being raised. Thanks.
Fantastic. So efficient. Like it. Love it. Thank you. So that brings our meeting to a close today, and I would like to thank everybody for coming and everyone for attending today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.